everybody. My name is Kristen Binford. I own a wedding venue, and I am also a business coach for venue owners all over the world. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This interview is going to be a lot of fun. My friend Carli is here. Would you like to introduce yourself real quickly, Carli?
Sure. My name is Carli Dixon, and I am the co-owner of the Brightside Music and Event Venue in Dayton, Ohio.
I love it. And where are you at right now? Are you in your space?
Yes, I am in our recently completed bridal suite. It is one of our COVID silver linings. We did not have the suite until we had a year with nothing to do.
Well, guys, I'm excited for Carli to share with you today. You have great taste and great design, and I love to see everything that you guys are up to. This is going to be a lot of fun for our interview today. Yeah, absolutely. So let's do this. I think we met first, I'm looking at my notes here, back in January 2020, but I want to peel the kind of curtain back a little bit before that. Tell me how in the world you got into this business.
Not on purpose.
Okay.
Let's see, how can I make it brief? I live in a town where my husband and I are artists. I preserve flowers and make them into jewelry or framed art. He is a metal sculptor. And about 12 years ago, all of the major corporations in our town started leaving the town all at the same time. That 2008 sort of bubble that burst. We were listed by Forbes as one of the top 10 dying cities in the country. And we thought, like everybody else did, about relocating. We went and checked out Asheville. We traveled around, and what we realized is that this place meant more to us. Like, we were taking it for granted. It's not every day that you can support a family being a family of two artists married to one another. And that unique experience made us say, well, we're not like a nurse and an EMT. We can't just pack up our skill sets and take them to Asheville. We're nobody there. And in Dayton, people recognize and appreciate what we do, and we need to recognize and appreciate it. Mm-hmm. So we got involved in community development organizations, something called Dayton Create. And then one thing led to the other. And basically it was just making peace with the fact that we were going to establish more permanent roots. So we started looking for a studio for my husband instead of a temporary space. And in order to buy the building to be a studio, it was part of a plat, which included an 1950s gas station and an 18,000 square foot industrial warehouse.
Wow. Yeah. So what was the conversation like when you said, what are we going to do with an 18,000 square foot industrial warehouse?
It was very brief and quick because the warehouse was full of, thousands of donated garments for Katrina donations that had never been distributed. It was boarded up. It had no services, no water. Homeless people lived within it and outside of it. It was one of the most decaying parts of our city. So the conversation was pretty brief. It was, hey, once we buy this, we can parcel off these other two components and find someone to buy them. That was the whole conversation. That was the whole plan.
And then you ended up in the wedding industry. What's the short path from there to there?
Creative friends that came and said, hey, if you can get water and power, I'd rent a studio. Hey, I'd rent a studio. Hey, I'd love to maybe open a venue. So we had some guys that did a great, about a 5-year run trying to open their own venue. We didn't know at the time what we should have been asking or saying to, avoid what would have been just this eventual obvious outcome for them. That is just a massive investment to put into somebody else's, asset.
Yeah.
But by them starting it, I sort of equate it to being, it's sort of like you're on a boat out at sea that's halfway built and you have to make it home. You got to finish it. It's not like we could have turned this half-finished venue into a hydroponic farm or an artist. Like, it had already had the bar built and the bathrooms. And so we just picked up where they left off and surveyed our community. We reached out before we did, and we said, we don't want to be redundant. The whole reason we even did this was to try to lift our city up that was struggling. What can we do that fills a gap that doesn't take from the other people that are trying to make things happen? And what we heard back time and again was our town needs a venue that allows choice of catering, which we know makes our lives harder. And we know a lot of people in the venue world would not do that or would not advise. We found that is kind of our niche, and it solved some real needs for nonprofits, weddings, and various other events where that's one of the really big sticking points for them.
I love it. Every time I talk to you, I learn something new about you, and I'm so grateful for that. We could talk for hours today, guys, but
I know. I want to get that somewhere on a calendar.
yeah,
Actually, that's my goal for the year is I'm going to quit like passing by this stuff when I have these amazing people in my life and figure out a way to carve out the time, because I'm always carving out the time for my to-do list, and I'm always carving out the time for the next thing and the toilet that needs to be cleaned and the landscaping conversation that I want to have. But the part where I feed myself by having these great conversations with these women and men in this industry, but also just around the community that I see and admire. Yeah. So
love it. I love it. I love it. So let's fast forward then for today's purposes, because we could talk all day and I know that. But
sure.
When I met you in January of 2020, where was the business at that time?
So we had opened the business, and it is probably important to mention that we don't just host weddings. We are a public event space where we have a performance platform, a full concert quality sound system. We actually have two different performance platforms. So we have a bar space and a ballroom space. And part of that was in response to the community's request that we have no mid-sized music venue in our town. And it's known to be a music town. A lot of funk bands have come from here, Guided by Voices, Brainiac, a lot of really known acts. So, sorry, tell me the question again. I just lost my train.
You're good. So in 2020, in January, when I met you, where was the business out of that?
Yeah, sorry. So as I said, I not only was this not necessarily on our trajectory or goals in life to be doing this, we also brought zero experience doing this. Neither my husband nor myself have ever been. I mean, I had a brief stint at Lone Star where I'd like line dance, and that was where I got most of my tips. But not an exceptional customer service, none of it. I've not been in hospitality in any way, never worked in a bar, neither has he. So what business did we really have even? Plus we're the general managers or the general contractors overseeing all of this construction, because we were not in a financial position to be hiring any of this out. So obviously we have to hire out everything that requires permitting, but from a management standpoint, we've been having to manage all of it. So I was completely and utterly like a deer in headlights. There was demand for our space. There was interest in the space. When I reached out to you specifically, I had somebody that was helping me. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there were when you don't have systems built, the people that are helping you could potentially actually be sabotaging you, and you don't really know it. So when those kinds of things happen, even though they are helping you get through day to day, that they're ultimately putting a hole in your boat. And so you have no choice but to say, I'm better off figuring this out on my own than continuing to keep this person on the team. And that's where I was when I saw your video right there.
So what made you, so all sorts of people watch, I hear this all the time, all sorts of people watch like my videos, and sometimes people watch all of them. They say, Kristen, I never reached out, right? What was it that ultimately made you reach out at that time? What was it that you wanted?
I think essentially I come from a family and sort of a mode of living where we're very DIY people. We're always kind of pull it up from I don't come from a place where we have a big investor or a big, there's not a big fund somewhere. This isn't, somebody like my dad trying to keep me busy. I'm trying to feed my kids and do it in a way where, for whatever reason, I've never really figured out I've worked for other people, but somehow I don't find myself in those positions. I find myself, my college degree was finalized based on the plan that I wrote for my floral preservation business. So I have been self-employed from the moment I graduated from college. So it's really how I know how to do things. The problem with that is that when you're aware of your own limitations, you realize that even though it's painful and it's against your nature, sometimes it really does make sense to spend money that, that's the other thing. In your brain, you're constantly you're spending the least amount, that you're always looking for what is the most economic way I can get this done, because I'm trying to make more things happen than might be feasible or realistic, but I somehow do it. Like I sometimes liken it, I feel like a Jedi sometimes, where I'm like, I am just making that yellow light stay yellow for an extra 3 seconds because I need to get through it because I have a thing I need to do on the other side. So it's that kind of life. I mean, it's a tenuous, challenging, and super exciting way to live, but it doesn't leave you in a position to say, I'm going to spend real money on having somebody else tell me what to do. I mean, it's something I don't even think done in most of my adult life. And oftentimes when I have done it, it's felt like money poorly spent because it was somebody trying to get my money, not somebody trying to help me. And whatever it is, the combination of the things that you promise that you're going to share with people, you would either have to be lying and then you wouldn't get the reviews you get, or you're being honest and you're giving people something that in all my, 2.5 decades of being self-employed, nobody ever really shows you how to cook the recipe. You know what I mean? Like they show you the pretty picture at the end and they show you this pile of ingredients, but then the magic part is what they know. That's the thing that makes it great. And they just are stingy, and you're not, you're just not, you share the magic. And I sensed that when I talked to you and when I walked through it, and I felt like this is going to be money well spent.
I had no idea what you were going to say when I asked you that question. And that really, thank you. I'm not a super emotional person for people who know me, but that got me. So thank you for that, Carli.
Oh, good. That's what it was. And that's how I felt ever since then. I'm like, this woman is she shares the magic because she actually wants you to succeed.
So let's talk about that. What can we find to celebrate about you now? So that was 2 years ago when we had that first conversation. You were underwater. You had booked some weddings, but not as many as you wanted. I think I remember a lot of strategic decisions you needed to make in the business. We talked about all sorts of different things that kind of added up to the magic. Because I want to be clear, the magic isn't like this handshake that I'm going to teach anybody, right? It's the decisions that you need to make in your business to add up to be your magic. So what can we find to celebrate about you today? Where's the business?
Sure. So one that's really specific to today is last week, I found myself as a person who could take all of my storage cabinets, empty them all into one central room, sort everything by type, figure out where it all goes, and label all of the containers and put everything so everybody knows where everything goes in our venue. And this might be something that some people who are building from the ground up and have built in storage think that's or who cares? It just doesn't matter. When you're trying to force this function into an 1890s coal depot they weren't even thinking about storage. And then you're behind and underwater. So you have a team of people that you're trying to get to help you, but you don't even know where to tell them to go to get the trash bags because it changes every week, because there aren't even shelves there yet. The fact that I could even be a person that could put time toward that is just, I can't even describe. I mean, it's like I went on vacation. I will sit in this freezing cold weather. Snow can fall on me in Dayton, Ohio. I don't want to be anywhere else. I just want to put stuff away. Anyway, so that's my celebration for today. But in general, I have over 160 weddings booked for 2022. I am down, for some reason, all my Sundays are open in November. I don't know. It's like the world wants us to take a break in November and I don't know, shop and cook, or I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm down to about 6 Sundays. And other than that, everything is fully booked, like 52 weeks of the year booked. Now, those are the weddings, 160 are weddings. The rest of them being booked might be attributed to an annual show that we host every year that we know is coming back. And so we've held the date. And then we signed on this year. And I hope that we're just going to keep doing it. We partnered with a group called Dayton Dinner Theater. And so they have brought classic movie on Sunday nights that pairs themed drinks with a themed meal from one of our local wedding caterers who's partnered and come up with the menus. And then everybody dresses up as their favorite character. And there's like costume contests. And it's basically just a Sunday night for movie lovers. So it's an all ages event. So that's occupied and will hopefully continue to occupy 10 of the Sundays kind of through this cold time of year. So that's a celebration because that's programming that we didn't have to develop. We don't advertise it, but the number of our couples that are showing, or their moms, their dads. I mean, if anything, it's really challenging I'm having to remember, "Oh, that's Emily's mom," or because it's like, I know, oh, you were just here for a wedding last month. And then we have about 40 booked for 2023. I have, I've hired someone who's brilliant, and I felt confident hiring her, and she's confident doing the job because I plugged her into a mechanism that you helped me build. So I can't even describe it. Is it's a miracle. I mean, it is. And this is what I tell the bride. I'm like, you find it stressful to plan one wedding. We're planning 160 and I'm not stressed out. I mean, that has to tell you something about this tool. Like, just know you're not going to need to be sifting through email threads to remember what we talked about, because you're going to have a tool that helps you know that, that information just with a click, just opening it up on your phone. And the gift that's been to my staff and to the clients it's been, I keep commenting on it because I'm like, not trying to be redundant, but I'm like, it changed how I feel about this business. I am super motivated and excited and confident. I cannot fake confidence. If I'm not confident in my ability to deliver on the commitments I've made to you, I am going to be a nervous wreck leading up to that moment, because I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. I'm just terrified about how I'm going to get it done, and I might not sleep. Well, now I feel like I just am I sleep well at night, and I'm calm because I know we're going to do what we said we were going to do, because if I can see it right there on my phone.
My friend. Wow.
Isn't that great?
What an incredible transformation in not that much time.
That's the thing. I mean, and this is the thing too. I haven't even gone through, I've only done 50% of the program. And I know I'm supposed to do it in order. And I know that I didn't. And anyone watching this, don't do it the way I do it in order. That's what you should do. But because what's happening is the things that I'm like, I have to get this website built. I'm going to have to jump ahead. There were some things that I had to do out of order, and I just cannot wait. It's sort of like, for me, it feels like yoga. I do yoga. Mm-hmm. And what I love about yoga is that I'm always waiting to see what it's going to reveal to me next, because I know it's like a lifelong practice, that you're not on a journey to like this destination. You're just constantly evolving yourself. And so you get to wake up the next morning, like, what does it have for me today? And that's I'm like, I can't wait. I think this spring I'm going to open the program back up, and I'm going to really dive into contracts, and I'm just really going to think about it. Anyway, because I know there's so much great stuff in there, and I know there are things that I'm getting wrong every single day, and that's the thing. There's a lot of work to your program. I mean, you can't just do it halfway. You have to really commit to what it is and all of the intention that goes behind getting those answers right for yourself. And it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. And I would say that sometimes people are nervous about that. Like, oh, but I only have so much time, or I have kids, or I have, right. But I think you're also walking living proof that even though that you could go back and give it the other 50%, like, holy cannoli, how much progress have you made with the 50% that you've done? You know what I mean?
Well, and I feel like somebody who now, I mean, the biggest thing that I think happened for me is that it's information overload when you find yourself in this position. And again, somebody else might find themselves in a very different position. You've got maybe a spouse who's already supporting your family. You're doing this as an additional income, or you've got a property that you're slowly transitioning. I was in the circumstance of, I'm having to use this asset that I found myself owning and turn it into something that can support my family, because I'm doing this instead of going and getting a job and earning a living for my family. There's no maybe it'll work, maybe it won't in that case. So it kind of raises the stakes. I had to get it done. I had to figure it out. And I'm raising 2 kids, and I'm the owner of the property, but I also own this other business that has 6 employees, and I'm the airbrush artist. So I put in about 20 hours a week over there. So that's the only reason that I would say I was unable to put all the time in. And even, I was doing all my own social media at that time. I've found somebody to help me with some of that. But it's a lot of work. But I'd say even with I had no one helping me run the events. It was my husband and I. we still found the time. I basically went through, and the parts where I said, I figured I could live without contracts, because at the end of the day, the contract, it's mostly about whether or not you're going to be in the mood to fight with somebody anyway. And I'm in the position where I'm, in most cases, I'm in a different, because we own the property and there's other, I tend to be somebody that looks, oh, okay, fine, I'm not going to argue with you anyway, so I could deprioritize some things like that. Or the social media. Like for me personally, because we do the public events, there's very little promotion that we have to do of the space. It's really known in the community. So I could deprioritize some of the Facebook Live stuff. But those were calculated choices I made, that had I not had that other business or some of those other demands, oh my gosh, what I would tell anyone is find the time, do it all in order and do it all. Because I wish I had done I wish I had done it all, because then, yeah. Anyway.
So that's actually what I wanted to ask you next, is like, if someone, I don't know, if you were talking to someone who hadn't booked a call with us, or maybe had, and they felt like, oh, I'm on the fence about this, or I'm trying to decide if I have the time, or I'm trying to decide if I have the resources, like, what would you say to someone in that situation in terms of making a decision?
I would say the time, the wasted money, time, and grief that you'd save yourself would offset all of it. Period. Like that's
period. The end. That's an easy answer.
Period. That's it. Like because you can waste so much time in this business. Oh my God, I have no emails. I have no emails in my inbox. The only emails I have in my inbox, Kristen, are people wanting to come tour my venue. So many people that we do vineyard tours. So it's a vineyard tour. We get everybody a non-alcoholic drink. We make sure they introduce themselves, so we make sure none of them are competing for the same date, because we don't want it to feel pressured. And then they all learn from everybody else, all the other moms' questions. They're like, oh, I never thought of that. Oh, because we'll have 15 to 20 couples every Tuesday that want to tour.
You're incredible. I know. So I don't think I'm sharing any inside baseball here. Carli shared in our Facebook community with other venue accelerator folks that you had like 14 tours all booked on one day, or all at the same time. Yeah, she's awesome.
Most of the tour, and part of that is not on purpose or not. It's I don't know, maybe somebody can help me with this. I can't figure out how to use the Dubsado to plan pre-event consultations and tours and turn off one but not the other. Like it's all one profile. Anyway, so if I have one thing going on, like a tour, and I say that time slot is booked, then I have a separate staff member who's there and available that could be doing a pre-event, like running through somebody's planner, who's now sitting there twiddling their thumbs for 30 minutes or an hour because it shows as closed in the Dubsado. So I've decided, you know what? I'm going to let people just overbook time slots, and then we'll figure it out and then I'll watch it. If I get 2 or 3 people that have booked a 6 o'clock time slot, then I'll, when I catch it in time, I'll go in and I'll turn it off and call it closed. But so far, I've started, this is really fun. And this might be something you recommend that I haven't gotten to yet. I send a post-tour survey that I just started in this past 2 weeks. Because a lot of these folks are doing a tour not with me. So it's really important for me to make sure that they had a great experience with the person that did tour with them, that their questions got answered. How did their overall, I can't believe the number of people that are responding to those questionnaires. And so the feedback has been all positive. There's been no negative. And had they say, I really wish I wasn't touring with those other people, because it's a very open and honest questionnaire. Like, look, tell me the stuff. Like the more stuff you tell me, the better I can be. I want to hear it. I won't take it personally. And so it's a format that.
Yeah, you're just a lifelong learner, right? And I love with what you just said, like you're attached to what you do because you love it so much, but you're not so attached that that's personal to you. And that's hard to do.
It is hard
to do as a business owner. So I have a question for you. So we have an audience of folks who are listening here with us today. Venue owners, prospective venue owners, kind of without giving away any of your insider baseball secrets. That's not what I'm asking for, but just kind of general advice, I would say. Is there anything that you would want to say to prospective venue owners or other venue owners that you think would serve?
So I guess one thing I could share that's sort of the thing that I've observed from watching how our venue is finding itself seated in our market is that it is playing in a totally different league to try to find a way to invite the community in for public events in your space with regularity. It requires putting on taking off the wedding hat completely, everything about how you manage and pay your team, all of your policies, everything that makes you stressed out about a couple, you're just having to totally live with, because there's no way that you could hold people that don't have a security deposit paid to you. Anyway, there's a lot of things that really, it can be hard to reconcile. But it's the only thing that makes any sense in my brain as to why we are, I mean, I'm really delinquent and horrible about the Facebook Lives. So I don't do much of that. We have no advertising. The only thing we do are these public events. So that's, I guess, the only thing that I would say is that if you can carve out a spot in, and again, it's money, time, effort, you can funnel it toward whatever you want to funnel it toward. We found that, okay, if we funnel it all toward hosting 2 concerts a month, that's fun to us.
Yeah. And
it brings the audience in a way that isn't sending it off to Facebook or whatever. So I guess that's what I would say, is that at least look at that. Now maybe your space wouldn't even, make sense in that kind of environment, but if you can make it work, I have found that it's a really fantastic way to connect and create a spot in the community where people are thinking of your venue. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me, because otherwise I'm just not sure how people keep finding us.
Well, and I would also,
when we haven't been around that long.
Yeah, I would also say though, and I'm going to footnote what you just said, because sometimes people hear things like that and they're like, oh, that's the magic shiny ball. If I just start doing in-person events, and this is going to be the thing that changes. So one thing Carli's done really well, and it's not one thing, it's hundreds of decisions, because I remember when you were making a lot of these decisions, is how do you build your business around what the market needs and wants? How do you carve out a niche? Who really is your ideal client? Are you priced correctly? How are you serving them before they get to you? How are you serving them through the wedding planning process and on wedding days, right? So if you weren't doing all of that really well, events would be less impactful for you than what you're doing now.
Amen. And I would also say that the events that we're hosting are natural attractors for our target audience. And that's also something that's really important. It's not, we're not putting on magic shows here, although we've done that. That was actually great, because it was like a freak show with eating fire and stuff, and fire dancers. Anyway, so when you're bringing in these hip bands and things, it's just, there are certain bookings that I've gotten because I said Guided by Voices played here, and they're like, yep, well then we're getting married there, so that if that isn't there in your market, or it doesn't attract the people you're looking to attract, then it's not a match anyway.
So, but super cool. Isn't Carli cool, you guys? I love her. Thank you so much for so openly sharing today. Thank you for what you're doing in the community. That was one of the things that when I first met you, you're like, we're here to do weddings, but we're here to do so much more than weddings. And I think that the way that you've shown up for others and given back to the community and just who you are as a person always shines through. I am so grateful for you. I'm so grateful our lives have crossed paths. I do want to remind everybody that if you haven't booked a call with our team, our book a call link is kristenbinford.com/accelerator. kristenbinford.com/accelerator. So grateful that Carli took that leap of faith and reached out to us 2 years ago. And isn't it just amazing how far she's come? So proud of you, my friend.
And thank you. Truly, I would not even have my hair done or be in a position to want to talk to anybody if I felt like my world was on fire, which is where it was before your program.
I love it. So. All right, everybody. #live if you watch this the first time that we premiered it. #replay if you watch it later. And everybody give Carli a big round of applause for building just an amazing business, a scalable business, a beautiful business that gives you time and joy and freedom that you want. So, all right, everybody. We'll see you in a future video. Thanks, guys.